I suppose just over the last year I've been involved with the 20s, and what I'm finding and what my observation is that when they get to that kind of level, that just in terms of basic technique and scrum and line out is what they're lacking. So when they get to the age of say 18, 19, the basics aren't there. So for me it's just really important that, you know, lower down as we go down the NAG age group, that we're teaching these kids the basics of scrumming, stuff like getting into a good body position, and line out its lifts, and its throws and its jumps. So what I'm finding at line out time, you get a lot of the kids, they well, I say at line outs there's three components: there's a lift, there's a jump, and there's a throw. You tick all those things off, usually you have a successful line out. If one of those things are not right, you usually fail. So what you notice is a lot of kids don't know how to lift properly, they don't go to full extension, and the jumpers too they don't react fast enough. So when we do line outs, we'll just do a simple drill reaction, and we'll just go through some lifting techniques. In terms of scrum, we'll just build it right from the beginning. So literally individual setups, what you can do with players, and then we'll bring it into kind of a collective. Yeah, other than that, I think we'll just crack onto it. We'll just have so with the individual, I talk about a T-spine, and I'll explain that, and that's before your setup, your pelvic tilt, your foot foundation, and then your chin are the kind of the four things that I work off. So I can just demonstrate. So when we talk about a T-spine, it means just our spine there being on and being switched on. We see a lot of kids going into scrums and they got a hump back like that, which is quite problematic, and they can injure themselves. So a real easy drill to do there is just you go and touch your toes, and you come up as if you're doing a chin up, and then you just bring there. You can see there, I'm on there on my T-spine between my shoulder blades. The next thing then is just our pelvic tilt. So when we're hinging at the hips. So it's just into that position there, and then our chin position once we're there. So where's our chin? A lot of kids look up, or a lot of players look down. We want it in that neutral position, just there. So when we look up, we're only looking up with our eyes. Okay, if we're looking up with our head, what tends to happen?
We're talking front row here, or in second row?
Just front row at the minute. Yeah. If we're looking, so if we're in this position there and we're looking up, what tends to happen on the engage?
So strength around the shoulder.
No.
Yeah, how you got that?
Get an elbow in the
Yeah.
face.
No, and also what you tend to get is them rolling in. So when they have to engage, they're having to duck their head, which means they're doing that, and that's when you're getting your curve. So by having your chin in neutral, your eyes looking up towards there, when you're engaging, it's just straight in and down. And I talk about knees and chest to ground. So ideally you want your knees dropping, and then that will allow your chest to drop, and that puts you in the perfect scrumming position. So what we like to see is a flat back, 90 degrees at the calves, I'll expand out, and then 120 on the legs. So you're kind of in this position there, in that pushing position. That's the ideal body shape and pushing position. Any questions on that? So who wants to demonstrate? Rory, in you come. So these are just simple one-on-one drills you can do with kids, and it's repetitive. You can do it every session. They can do it while they're home. You can do it looking in the mirror just to see if they got a flat back, how their 90 and 120 is. Okay, so
Turn over to here so we can
Yeah,
look
sure.
at, we're looking into that.
yeah, sure.
I am anyway. I'm going blind. Sorry, Steve.
So
There we go.
So to begin with, you're looking T-spine. So bend, touch your toes, up for pull-up, and then back down. Okay, your T-spine's activated then. And once you're in that position, you're looking at your pelvic tilt. So it's just today. And then your chin position, and making sure your feet are firmly planted on the ground. What do we also find a lot with front rows when they're in that position? So get in that position for me. So do your T-spine, touch your toes, up you come, you do a chin up, and then down. Bend at the hips, there you go. What do we find a lot with kids when they're in that position? And you see it quite a lot in scrums.
Fall forward?
No?
Because if they're going to be the prop locks coming in, they're going to push them.
No, not, we won't go that far yet.
Okay.
You find them, a lot of them will sit in this position, back on their heels. Okay, for here we want them to go onto the balls of their foot. So they're leaning forward a bit, so go onto the balls. There you go, lean forward a bit, there you go. See how he's on edge there? So that's what we're looking for. So chin in neutral, so there. That's pretty good. Do it again. Stop. So bend your T-spine, hinge at the hips. So head in neutral. There you go. Look up. Pretty easy. Yeah. So every player across your front row, even your second rows, your flankers, we can all practice that because if we're all on the same hinge sheet and we're all doing the same thing, it means we're all you know, doing the same thing and we're all together.
So these are drills to do as one-on-one or one, but not with an 8 together.
No, not yet. I'm literally building up the individual setup, and then we'll come into.
I'm just curious about the balance. That's all.
Yeah, the balance thing isn't an issue because you should be on edge, but when the second rowers come in, you should just let them in. Okay, it shouldn't be a big second row coming in and he knocks the props forward. He should just come in, just give the proper slap and open the hips, comes in, and then he's in that position. Don't know yet.
Bear in mind you have a hooker balancing the weight as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the hooker's not doing this at all. He's just leaning back, going like this or something. Or?
No, I'm sure we'll get that. But
yeah.
so that's just for the props. That's for the second row.
This is just for the props.
Sorry, I'm not much of a front row.
No, it's okay.
Really
And as I say,
that's all.
this is very much open forum too. So if you don't get something, please ask. It's not all me talking. So if you're unsure of anything, just give us a shout. So this is the prop setup. When we talk about setting with the hooker, okay, hookers can come in and they're in that position, so that semi-crouch position, and then your props will come in either side. All right. If you want to practice that, just the props thing, if you're willing to do that, if you want to do that, you can. Otherwise, we can move on. It's up to you. Here you go. So T-spine. Yeah. Okay, stay in that position. Any pointers there? Yeah, say his feet are a bit close together. So widen your feet a bit. Yeah. Pretty good, eh? Yeah, good.
Damn flat to me.
Yeah. No, it's pretty good. The straighter you can get that back, the better. And as I say, kids coming up when they're 11, 12, the main thing that they need to strengthen is their neck and their back for that age. As they get a bit older, they'll get into the gym and they'll start doing other stuff. As I say, from a young age, just make sure necks are strong, backs are strong. So when we say back strong, we mean that flat back. When we say neck, it's all these muscles here, and obviously core. Helps a lot. All right. So we've gone through the props, hooker. We'll go through second row now. So second row, it's the same process before they come into a scrum. It's your T-spine, but then they just switch on in that position. Right. Today, some coaches like props to be double, so both knees on the ground and then coming up on the barn. Some also like one leg up. Okay. It's your choice as long as both of them do the same thing. Probably at a young age, it's probably easier to do this because you get more stability and less movement. Happy with that?
Now, can you show me the bind of the lock onto the prop? Because mine was told one way, and then we just got one of the USRC pro coaches at our cycling guys, and he's saying that he prefers it something a different way. So I'm really curious as to what you think would be a preferable option.
The way, as I say, everyone's different.
Yes.
Which way did you?
Well, under the legs and pull the jersey here, but he's going on the shorts.
Yeah. So which the way I like.
Shorts.
Yeah, shorts.
So to the side of the shorts, or
So it's if I'm the right hand second row, I put my hands through and put around his leg.
So it's
Purely
almost-
because of jersey, you've got a lot of give in a jersey.
Yeah.
So you can get a bit of attachment, you want them as tight as possible.
okay, so you're coming in and he was even saying grab hold of the pockets, if they have pockets and stuff.
So yeah, what I like. So if Zach,
He's
I
a
mean,
prop,
if
so
Rory,
he should know.
if Rory's the loose head, yeah. Sorry, if Rory's the tight head, you'll come in and you're there. So he's through. That's what I do. That's what I coach. If you're on the, as you say, as Ben says, you've got a lot of pull here on the jersey. But when you're here, your shoulder connection is right under his butt, and his butt cheeks there, and it's real tight here.
Okay, because I think he was saying around the outside of the league.
No, I wouldn't coach. I wouldn't
I
coach.
might be mistaken. I have to double check with him tomorrow night.
It's okay.
Okay.
You dislocate shoulder.
But yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
But the whole thing that brings me on to is probably when we set up as a unit that joint connection. And I talk about joints. It's so if Rory comes in here and he's the hooker, so go into that position that I told the hookers to be. So just that prop. So if I come in as a loose head prop, I'm here. I talk about joints. That's a joint there, and that's a joint there. So if those are connected the whole time, we should be straight and we should be square. And that's a big thing we need to focus on. Right, let's not worry about angles or anything. The squarer we can push, the better. So we talk about joints, and it's that. It's from your hip and your shoulders. And that's between the front row all the way along and your second row joints. So if you go in, just go down there if you're prop. Second row joints, so is here with my second rower, here, but then this is also a joint, so under there. That's also a joint. So if that never breaks, then you've got your power coming through from behind. If I'm a flanker, and how we set up, flankers should have the same profile as the front row and the second rows. So when they're coming in, just go on, they're leaning on there, they're coming in behind, and they're there. Okay, they can even have this foot back when they're binding, so they're in this position. So on the crouch, on the bind, they're coming up into that position, and it's just straight in. Number 8's the same. Any questions? Any questions on binds between front rows? Do we all know who's binding? It doesn't matter who binds first, but where tight head's binding.
If we were told in the old days, props step across the hooker, and so they get him like they almost strangle him, and then they go through. But
Oh yeah.
the poor
That would be
hooker gets
good,
cut in half.
and explain why you got the hooker in that position rather than
Yeah.
that would be
So-
useful as well. So do both of those,
So
I think.
the reason we have a hooker in that semi-cross position is because it's the less movement in the setup, the better. So the less movement when the second row is coming in, fighting to get in, that's no good. So the need to the setup, the better. So when the hooker's in that position, it means that, so just go into that position. So when I'm coming in as a loose head prop, all I'm doing is I'm connecting here, connecting there, and I'm in that position already. So there's no up, down again. So we're just in that semi-cross position, and then on the ref's call, we're just there. Where I like my loose heads to bind is just there, along there. That means just the joint, you can squeeze it up and it's real connected there. Right, along the shorts there, if I'm there, I just lose that connection a bit. But where I'm up there, I'm under. Yeah, good. Tight head prop, I just usually come around around the back in this position here. So I'm not going all the way around, because what happens if I get a tight bind there, as a tight head prop, we tend to come down and we tend to go in straight away because we're so tight. So we need that looseness there that he can hit square and stay square. Any other?
Is there a preference about whose arm goes over whose in terms of the type of the loose?
Well, if you just turn around. So if I'm a loose head, I'm here. Got that? And then when I come on tight head, I'm coming in there. So the loose head will be over the top, and he'll be under.
And the hookers are just grabbing you up under that, sort of quite high on the props.
Yeah, so Zach, can you come? So there are two options where the hooker can bind. So just depends the hooker. Yeah, he can pick up his preference. He can either go below the armpit, below the armpit there. We can really on that crouch call and that bind, we get the hooker to really tighten that up. Or a lot of hookers go there on the shoulder, on the top of the shoulder, and they squeeze it together. I don't know what works for you.
Personal preference, I would say.
Yeah, it's just a preference, really. Yeah.
Okay, so but the hooker's going over top of the props.
Yeah. And then he's just squeezing it up. The other thing is, so you can get them just to practice those one-on-ones against each other, and then you build it into the kind of the whole collective unit. So it doesn't matter how many now. You don't need 8 to have a full scrum when you train. You can have 2, and all you can do is just that shape. So you get them to just go against each other there. So get your shape. Good, yeah. So just fold in. So when they're in that position, okay, I know they haven't got boots on. Okay, when they're there, you can just have a contest, or you can get them to lower to the ground and back up. All right? Okay, they're going to battle because they've got no boots on. All right? You can do one-on-ones. It's a good thing. So you always, in those one-on-ones, you're always looking at their profile. How's their back? So you're ticking off that checklist individually. So T-spine, hinge at the hips, chin, feet. Tick that off. You let them go against each other. You can get them to go up and down. You can get them to go forward, backwards. So they call them EORs. You can do those one-on-ones. So just going forward, the one prop's extending, the other prop's taking it, and then the other prop extends and the other prop takes it. Then you can build it into a 2-on-1. So you usually just have a prop with other 2 props there, and you come down, and you have the props around there. Okay, so they just bind up. So all that's happening is it's me versus them. So they're going to let me push them, but make me work at the same time. So we're looking to get into the perfect shape, nice and low with our hips with our knees to the ground and our chest to the ground, and then slowly work them back straight. So into that perfect position there. So on chest is at the ground. I'm just working small steps, catching up my feet. All right. So you can just do those 2-on-1s. Then you can build it into 3-on-3. So it's the same thing. One team works, the other one provides resistance, and then you can also build it up into a 4v4. So if you have a loose head and a hooker, and you have a tight head and a hooker, or 4 front rows, you don't have enough for 2 full front rows, you can split it into that. You can put a second row in behind each, and then a flanker in behind each. So you're kind of practicing those mini units against each other. You're practicing a tight head side and a loose head side versus, and then when you have enough numbers, obviously it all comes together. Anything else on Scrum? It's just the basics I'm really trying to get across.
Do you want to touch on the hooker's break foot?
Yeah.
For balance wise. So just what you said about balance earlier, so where the hooker has a split stance compared to everyone else, where the hooker is split, when your question was about how they manage the balance, so all the weight is on that front foot, and they allow everyone to come in, second row to get their weight, and when they crouch, all their weight's through there, and on the set, they take that back. So that's how they manage the weight, balance the second row coming in. So the props come a bit more freedom, the hooker takes the weight. Makes sense? Yeah.
Also, what you can throw in there is those single sleds. If you have any of those, you can have a prop. You can even put a second row in behind that and a flank on. You can put a bit of weight on it, and you can practice just getting into that shape and pushing straight. Everyone working, and those connections, as I say, those joints all connected the whole time. Happy? Anything else? Must have a question. Okay. Are we happy with Scrum or do you want me to move on? Any questions, far away? As I say, those are the real basics. But yeah, it's good to get those foundations in, especially at a young age. So by the time they come to 17, 18, they know how to get in shape. They know what they mean when it's knees and chest to the ground. They know what getting a setup is individually. So, you know, by the time they get to that age, coaches aren't having to start right at the bottom at the basics. You know, they can build on that. It's more kind of technical stuff you work on.
Do you, on attack and stuff, do you have a preference for where the number 8 should sit? Like, if it's going to come down the channel and he wants to go left, then stick on the left-hand side with the open side, between the open side and the lock type stuff, or always in between the locks? And
yeah,
same like on
complicate
D.
it too much,
Yeah.
especially at a young age. I'll just put them between the locks. They can just play off that. As I say, like when they're young, you know, when they 15, 16, 17, even younger, I think the more basic we keep it, the better. So just hammering those fundamentals at them. You know, even like the likes of Ben and the pro players, you know, they hammer these fundamentals all the time and they're pro. So, you know, it's simple, but it needs to become a habit. So they just start doing it automatically, not having to think.
Are there any good hooking drills that are hooking to practice? So a lot of time it feels like you have to set up everything in order to hook it.
No, yeah, there's a lot of you can simply just go against the wall, get in that pushing position, and just get a hooker and just get a 9 to feed and just practice that strike. Or you can just go as a front row against the wall or posts, and you can just get a 9 to feed and just practice that strike. The main thing there is just the flexibility. Hookers have to strike nowadays, so they need to be able to get, when they're in a low position, be able to get that foot around. Ben, anything on that? Any others? Okay, so you can break it up into those many kind of things and just hooker practicing that strike.
Sorry, one more annoying one. Tight head, loose head.
Yeah.
Which one should be taller, shorter? Preference in terms of that, because I'm seeing now everyone seems to be 6'2" if you're looking, in the front row, whereas last time it was 5'8", and
yeah, it's your tight head usually tends to be your bigger out of the props, more stockier. If they can be a bit shorter, that's fine. Your loosies tend to be a little bit taller and a bit slighter than others.
but just more focus on consistency and height in that. I mean,
yeah, it's. Look, you're going to get a various range of heights.
I'm getting massive variations.
Like what? Like?
Yeah, like more than head and a shoulder type thing between some of my front rows.
Yeah, I
It's
think
quite difficult for my poor hooker. That's all.
I think, well, just on that, just from my experience with these skills, basic skills, really important that backs, forwards, all of that. Just because particularly I've been small ones, particularly at the age of 11 to 18, change position, side, technicalities, and everything changes so much in those 6, 7 years. I guess actually these are really relevant for everyone. That kind of goes back to your point of having a second row or prop or hooker or whatever.
Yeah, I just think probably with that is what helps a lot is when we're forming a scrum, there is a different, guys are taller, but if a hooker's in that crouch position already, they're just coming in, sliding in, and then it's up to them and their full position with them. So one of their feet might be further back than the other, but if they're setting up straight like us and the hooker's binding, of course it's going to be lifted off the ground. So I think it's real like the hooker's in that semi-crouch position, because then it's just like the props, it's like a puzzle, they just fit in either side and they're immediately joined at their joints. And that's the focus. Then it's just feet positioning really.
Ties in nicely. Is it worth showing them a little bit the foot adjustment? Whether you do that
Yeah, we can,
before the bind and after, depending on age group.
Yeah, so a while back, props used to have their feet pretty neutral, the same position. Now with this whole bind thing, as a loose head, your left foot will be forward, and on that bind you just drop it back. Tight head, your right foot will be forward, and on the bind you're just dropping it back. You're looking to drop it to the same level. So both feet, once you bind, both feet are coming back to the same level.
Okay, so on the engage, we are splitting our legs slightly.
Not on the engage, no. On the engage, it should be absolutely squared parallel.
I guess so on the
So I'll show you
You
here.
want to show? Yeah, show that actually. I think
Well, on
People
crouch
see.
engage.
Hold that. So as a tight head prop, we usually set up in this position. So the tight head is bound there.
Yeah.
So it's crouch, and then bind, and on the bind, just dropping that there,
Okay.
and then waiting for the set, and just straight. Same as the loose head. Yeah. The reason we do that is just to get square and straight.
Sure.
If we're in this position like this, bind, engage, what's going to happen?
Where you're going to go, your foot's going to go from under you.
Hips are going to do that, and also, as you can see, my back leg there was straight.
Because you're the tight head, your lock's going to slide up your ass.
Slide it straight up. So the more we can get into this position here, so we're in the scrum, to this position, is the target now for the second row is to push on. And we say call spine in line, all our spines are straight up the field and all your power is going straight up. If any of the front rows hips pop out, that's when you lose power on scrum time. So try and keep the front row straight, second row straight, everyone spine in line, straight up the pitch.
only exception, but perhaps at under 14 that can be quite challenging.
Yeah.
But by 16 I want it. 14 I might let them, because there's not a lot of pushing, I might let them set and adjust. But
Yeah.
by 16, yeah, you want that.
But it's also just practice too.
But,
It's
yeah.
just getting them used to that. What they're doing there, it's just repetition. Yeah.
Just-
Steve, anything else you want to cover?
Sorry, for
Yeah.
the adjustment, is
Yeah.
it also for the hooker?
Yeah. So the hooker's in that position,
Yeah,
and on the set, that's when he drops his foot back
on the set.
on the set.
I think that's it. I think that's everything I
As
can think of.
as I say, it's really it's really the basics. It's building up from individual setups, and then you build it into a collective. But as I say, you can do a lot of scrummaging work when you only have 4 or 5 players. You can do a lot of that 1-on-1, 2v1s. So don't think you have to have 8. You have to hit a scrumming machine the whole time. You can do a lot of this stuff, just getting shape. Make sure their backs are flat, necks are strong, and they can get into that shape.
God, I'm wondering. No, we don't quite have enough paint those pictures, do we?
Huh?
The numbers, we don't quite have enough paint the pictures, do we?
Yeah, we have enough for front row.
Yeah,
If you want to do a set, just a front row set. So
yeah, that would be
come
good.
in with-
Yeah.
Come in here with Zach and Rory. So, Rory, you want to play hooker? Okay, so set up that way. So are our T-spines on there? Okay, set up again, start again. So, Rory, down you go into that position. Okay, scaps on, T-spine, here we go. That's pretty neat. Now I go crouch. See, they're only dropping about that much. So it's not a big, from here down to here. Okay, the less movement and the neater they can be, the better. And then what's happening when your second rows are coming in, just give him a tap, he widens. Sorry, I'm just there, and I'm in there. Like that. And the second row is doing the same thing.
So for the second row grip, you're just sort of basically placing your hand on there. You're not like,
Oh yeah, I'm just coming through and around as high as I can.
but you're just sort of getting a relatively loose grip on this thing, or
Yeah.
you're
No,
tight
it's
as a num's
tight.
what's
Once
name?
I'm in there, I'm really squeezing him
Okay.
towards me. I'm pulling that joint there.
Yeah.
So my shoulder's underneath there. I'm really pulling him into me so that there's connection. It's not loose at all.
Okay.
So other second row does the same. And on the crouch, we're all in that position with the flat back. Locks come up, flankers come up, heads up. Anything else?
I think going back to the old way, it's important now, isn't it, that you see that the hookers kind of holding the weight in the front row, everyone else got to be able to manage their own weight. Would that be right? That'd still be...
Yeah, so it's, you know, the hooker's there, but the props are just sliding in, locks are sliding in, managing their own weight. Okay, we don't bump them and set them off, and then they all fall forward. Then on that bun, that's when we can bring the weight through.
And so for when you've got the 5, the type 5 are going in, then your 8's joining as the guys are actually going in for the bind, or is the 8's in there and he's going in with everybody all?
He's going in with everyone.
So and the flankers as well, are all going together.
Same time on that set. So as a flanker, so bind up there.
So we used to always just do the last 3 last.
Exactly.
I guess it's all about getting the first push up.
So as a flanker, I'm here. So I'm in this position, right? So we go crouch, and then I'm here in that position, in that pushing position.
Okay.
And then on the set, we walk together.
That's good.
On that crouch too, H just bring them up, and he's in, and he goes. Happy? Anything else? As I say, it's real basics, but I think it's really important. It's important that we don't complicate it either.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get the right pictures across the board to the kids, so I'm not contradicting them from you know, what's going to happen.
The more the whole scrum can look like the same, the better. So the props, second rows, flankers, 8, they're all in the same body profile. So when you do your one-on-ones, your locks can go one-on-one against each other, your flankers can go one-on-one against each other. It's everyone kind of singing off the same hymn sheet, really, is what I'm trying to get at. Happy?
Yep, great.
Cool. I'll just go on to line up now, and probably the thing I found there the most is, I suppose, especially the lower down you go, is why do we lift the tallest, biggest kid?
You wouldn't want to.
Yeah, and that's what we find a lot of the time is the kids around him aren't strong enough to lift him. So put him in as a lifter and get one of the smallest or lightest lad, lift him up. Just for now. The later on they progress down their career and the more they mature, then you can switch them. But there's a little reaction tool we can do there where you just put jumpers in and you have lifters and it's reaction, moving and jumping. That also works for kickoffs. So a big thing I find is on kickoffs, does the battle to read the flight of the ball, and then also they're just real static. So it's kicked off and they're not moving, and then last minute they're trying to move and get lifted at the same time. So it's more getting players in the habit to judge the flight and start moving, and it's also those props around him, whoever's lifting, they're moving, they're tracking the whole time. And that's the biggest thing I found even at under 20 level is lifters not being able to lift properly. So when they're lifting, they're bending here, not bending their knees, they're just bending there and trying to lift, but they should there and up. Other thing I found is they lift kind of there and not full extension. So for hookers, a massive thing, it's about that much of a difference between a full lift and a kind of semi-full lift. And that can make a huge difference in the line out. So for me, it's just, as I said earlier, the 3 things in line out: it's the throw, it's the jump, and it's the lift. You tick all those off and you get those right, you usually have a successful line out. What I'd say is also not complicated. What worked for us a lot at the World Trophy was just tempo. So going in and just, it's a throw, jump straight. So we're not going in and waiting a hell of a long time and then having a complicated move and guys slipping in, slipping out and all that. It's just like, right, ball's kicked out, hook against there, let's walk in, and we go straight away. Yeah, that's what I found. So some real simple things to warm up. You can just have a band, and it's just getting, so this is just practicing their lifts and their full extension. So it's just putting their feet in, they're just down this position, and they're up. And they're just down and up to that full extension. What we try and get the, what we worked with the 20s was just coming in, lifting, and coming up onto your tippy toes, and then lifting full extension and holding the guy up there for 3 seconds, because we often find they lift them and they're coming down straight away. So it's just that 3-second hold, get them in the habit to be there, and then bring him down, and then it's our finish. But as I say, when we lift, as two lifters, you often get, so if we, got your hands? When we're lifting, we often get that. So we're lifting and we come and finish in that position. We're not getting our maximum out of our height there of our lift. So I teach him, come through, and your chest's almost touching, and you're on your tippy toes. There. All right. Other thing we can do, if you just have, if you have a med ball, you can get two guys just in that squat position. Going to throw it, so hold it. So we're just there, squat, and we're just finishing. Okay, we're just both throwing that up and finishing our lifts right at the top. It's another exercise you can do just to get into those good habits. Anything around that?
Yeah, but I just find it my young ones with the jumpers, when they start going, they sort of rely on the lifters to do the rest, and they only sort of go like this.
So yeah, there's a drill that we also do is, so you'd have a prop in front, a prop behind, and you'd say, right, we're going back, so 3 meters, so we get them to 1, 2, 3. So the prop at the back, all he'll be doing is just practicing his lift. Like that. Jump will be going back 3 steps at the same time. All he's practicing is your jump. Same as the guy in front. He'll be going 3 steps. That. Just getting them into those habits. So the jumpers are having to jump, and the lifters are having to lift.
Do you focus on the jumpers going vertical or slightly forward or
straight up?
Straight
it depends. At the front of the line, they might go forward. Anywhere in the middle, back, straight up. Happy with that? Also, Ben's a hooker, and he can elaborate on throws and anything you want to do around that. But the throw, so towards the front, you probably want hard and flat, and then kind of middle back, you want a bit of loop to get over those spots in the front. At the back, you usually can just fire it in. All right.
So, what's your stance on it? Are you like a this, or my boys are all trying to figure out whether it's this or whether it's this, or what's,
yeah, so you want to be square feet as much as possible, so have your feet square, because if you start with a split stance, your hips are automatically facing one way, and you'll tend to throw it not straight. It's a lot easier to throw it, there's more room for margin for error. So you want to start with your feet square, and also your hands as square as possible, because it's the same as your hips. If a lot of guys, in order to generate spin, they'll have one hand right at the back of the ball, one hand at the front, and when they put it behind their head, it's almost horizontal. It's almost cutting like across their body. So what you want to do is try and get your hands as close together like you're doing a soccer throw in, or as near as you can. So then when it goes behind your head, again, the ball is pointing straight. Just reduces your margin for error. If it's one hand at the front and your hips go in, you're pretty much, I almost guarantee they'll throw the ball not straight. Whereas if everything's square, including your hands, you're giving the ball the best chance of travelling straight as opposed to an angle as you release it.
Okay, so you're saying the hands almost parallel.
As close as you can. I mean, it takes practice and stuff. Yeah. Like I hold mine exactly parallel. But some people struggle to generate enough spin from that, so they might have to have a slight split. But the more you can minimise that split in your grip, the better it'll be, or the more accurate you tend to be in terms of throwing the ball straight.
I didn't know that.
And they're the basics. Feet square and hands as level as possible.
So you're doing nice where you were throwing and then finish with that?
And then what encourage the guys, I call it a gauge, you can call it whatever you like. So after you've thrown the ball, just throw it you down. So I'm stood square, and after you throw the ball, you'll see a lot of guys throw the ball and they do this. Anyone know what was wrong with that? Anyone? Drop my hands, right? So again, it's a similar thing, exactly the same. If I'm throwing the ball and I'm dropping my hands, there's a lot of room for error there, because my hands are releasing and basically the balls, in theory, can travel anyway between that release point. So when you throw, encourage the guys every time as they throw, to hold their hands nice and high, call it a gauge, and just gets them into good habits. Again, the tighter it's like a follow through in tennis. Whatever you're following through is likely where the ball's going, and it's exactly the same in when you're throwing as a hooker. So everything's square, and you throw it in, and you throw it in, and you keep it a nice high gauge there. it'll stop the guys from under throwing, and it'll make the ball straighter. Hopefully, give them more chance of throwing straight.
And I noticed you got your feet quite close together. Is that just a personal preference? Or?
Preference, yeah. Get them square. I mean, I don't know what I do in a game. Probably, yeah, no, probably similar to that. Just shorter than shoulder width apart. Yeah. If you're going to do a football throw in, like with a soccer ball, however they stand in to throw a soccer ball in, they're not going to be far off their hookers throwing in stance. And again, they're generating their power from their core rather than their arms. So you want just a cock and to throw the ball from their core. In a nutshell.
And also as a front lifter, where we're looking to find in the line arm when you're lifting someone. Yeah. So
just above the knees.
Yeah. So you're looking to get in here, there. That's where you're looking to lift. That'll get you those extra inches. You see a lot of guys getting the shorts and slipping up. So focus on that there, on the side, and thumbs underneath, just above the kneecaps. And then the person at the back is just under the bum cheeks there, like that. Okay, you see a lot of nowadays we lift at the shorts and they slide up. So just get in behind there, right underneath. That's a full extension. You there? Any questions? So just a simple drill that we do. Sometimes is we just we'll have a jumper in the middle of the cones, yeah, and you just number the cones 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and as a coach you'll just call a color and a number, or you can call a number and a color, it doesn't matter. So if I go blue 1, 3, jumper's coming here, he's jumping on blue, and number 1 and 3 are coming to lift him. Or you can throw in 1 and 6, then they've got to decide who's going back, who's going front. Okay, it's just getting them to think and move at the same time. So you can try all those things too. Just gets the reaction going. It's getting the jumper moving and jumping, and it's getting the lifters around to react as well. Obviously, you have more numbers, you can put more cones out, more stations. You can put 2 drills running side by side. Yeah.
Can we see that actually, Brett? Can we get, seven people, but we'll pretend to do the lift? So we
so
just do it with the technique.
And you come.
Let's have a run. Yeah, don't worry, you won't actually have to lift.
We're not actually going to lift or anything, we can just show. There's someone in the middle.
It'd be good to picture this one.
There you go. So I'll just call a number, and I'll call a color cone, and that's where we're lifting and going up. All right. So we've got 2, 6 red.
Yeah.
6 is here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. Okay. So 3, 5 blue. So you got a talk.
Yeah, ready, jump.
Good. Okay. Obviously, it takes a bit of time in the beginning, but the quicker you can get that, the quicker you can get them reacting, the better. So, you know, obviously, you can't jump until the lifters are there. So it's those lifters reacting to the number and then color. So just make them think of 2 things, and then it's just once you get good at it, it says how quick can we get in there, and that will help them in lineouts when we come in with tempo or any calls. Just getting speed on the ground and those lifters going. 1, 6 red. There you go. Okay. You get it.
You really had to make me think then.
Yeah. But yeah, that's that drill in a nutshell. So just working on that speed, the timing, and in that you can focus on the lifts, and then you can get a hooker throwing the ball in as well. So you can get him throwing speed on the ground by the lifters and the jumpers, and then you can look at how they're finishing. Are they at full extension? You know, are they doing half lifts? How's their grips on the legs? Are they underneath the butt cheeks? Are they just above the knees? You can focus in on that little detail.
What about bringing them down safely?
Yeah, so what happens is when we bring them down, so we'll lift. So if I'm the back lifter, we'll lift. what we usually do is we just inside arm underneath the leg, and we just bring them down into that position.
The back guy.
And the front guy. So the front guy would just be opposite. So Lawrence, just come here and just show. Exactly in front. So if we lift, jump up, we lift it. Okay, so we're just playing up that way. So when we lift, we're lifting, and we just bring him into that position. That way. So you see my hand there? Like I brought him into me and I'm nice and tight there. So that helps, especially when we just want to set up mauls. We're lifting, and we're both nice and tight, and we're facing that way, ready to go.
I've seen many boys get their heels badly bruised by landing on them.
Yeah, it's the lifter's job to make sure he doesn't land on it. Like they got to bring him down, make sure it's not loose.
Once
that
it's
he's
been
not
dropped,
landing
they're
on
not keen to go up again. That's the problem.
Yeah, so that's on the lifters. They got to bring him down safely and look after him, obviously. And obviously, every time there, then you can mark that finish too. So how are we looking? So finish like that every time. Bring him up, bring him down into that position. That's basically all I have really. It's just real basics, but it's important to build on those fundamentally going forward. If we can nail those and the kids really learn that, it'll make coaches' jobs down the line real easy, because then we can focus on other things.
I think for a lot of you guys, I see a lot of lineouts where, like Brett says, I see 8 people lined up not doing much complicated move. I think if you can spend time at the start doing exactly that one, you know, the process, bring them down, getting your processes right, go into something that tests it under a bit of pressure, you'll get a far bigger improvement in your line out, won't you, from doing things like that, rather than spending your whole time with 8 guys lined up and, you know, any one time 4 of them not doing anything. Instead, we've got everyone working. So spend the majority of your time on this, then you'll find your line out just clicks.
Yeah, I'm thinking that I'm going to bring one of my little wingers in to be the guy that's lifted, and because most of my forwards are a little bit bigger. So
why else is that useful? Something me and Brett were talking about actually.
Sorry? Why else?
Why else is that useful for your little winger?
Well, no, probably because he's got some of the better hands, because he's used to catching the high balls and stuff, maybe. Or
in terms of development, what variation of the game might you end up playing? Sevens.
Oh,
yeah. Sevens often you know it's not necessarily a big guy going up, so yeah, no harm as well. Like it's not like you're teaching him something that won't be useful either. Yeah. So why not? Yeah.
And another drill you can do is just put cones out like that, and you have 2 line outs set. So you just have a pot of 3. And you can call a colour, and that's where so you make it a bit of a competition, a bit of a race. So if we line this, I'll have a prop, jumper, prop, and you just call a colour. So if you go red, shooting to the front, and it's just a lift there. You see it's just a bit of a race, see who wins, see who reacts quicker.
Can we see that one as well, actually?
Huh?
Can we see that one? That'd be good to see it. That you'll need.
You boys, you 3 can come in here. So just stand this side. So you can put 3 this side of the cones. You can put 3 opposite. Come a bit closer. There you go. So then I just call a colour. So if I call red, shoot to the front, ready, sit. And you're just competing versus against each other. So it's really basic, but it adds in a bit of competition, which is good. Just those basic drills, really. That's all I have. Short and sweet.
Are we doing any other questions? Anything on the? Maybe we wanted to get, wouldn't it? You talked a bit more about the kickoff. Do you want to do that in a little more detail, actually? Because I think that's
yeah, I can.
important. Yeah.
So you can, if that pod's just set up there, it's about your second row is reading the flight of the ball, and a lot of things you can do for that is just with a tennis racket and tennis ball. You can just hit them balls in the air, and they're judging it and they're catching it. And then you progress it. If a kid can catch a tennis ball, you'll be able to catch a rugby ball. But it's just them reading that flight off the kickoff and getting into position. And it's also communication in those pods. So you obviously your props they're not on top of each other, but they're allowing the movement of the second row to move around. So you can test them. You can So they got to react off the second row. So he's going forward, 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 and so both props are moving with him the whole time, but not touching him. And then he can call 3, 2, 1 up, and we're just lifting him wherever the space he chooses. You can do that to begin with. So you just move around, go forward, go back. You guys track him. Just go.
Yeah, backwards, backwards.
Yeah.
Yep, ready.
Yep. So you can go 3, 2, 1, or 2, 1 up. All right. So go backwards, forwards, to the side, any way you want to go. So come
Forward, forward, forward.
Yeah. Stay with him. 2, 1. And we're coming in and lifting on his call.
I'm interested, what age did you start encouraging that off the kick-off? Just in the line speed of the kick-off, Chet's not that young, at your age, definitely to be that quick. So.
Yeah, whenever they're ready and able to do it, really. When they're young, I suppose, like, you're probably not going to do that. It's only when they get older when they start doing that. Maybe when they're younger, you can just start hitting them tennis balls and just standing there catching it. If they're able to catch that, they'll probably be able to pick the flight of a ball and catch it just without a lift. It's only when they kind of progress to like 17, 18, 19, we're probably looking to do that.
Any questions? Anything else? Fantastic. Definitely beat Di for speed by about an hour. Great. Wrap up there.